TX Factor is brought to you in association with Martin Lynch and Sons, the world's favourite ham store. And the Radio Society of Great Britain is proud to sponsor TX Factor.
Welcome to TX Factor, the TV show dedicated to all things radio. And we're back after our long winter break because this is summer. For today only though, because this is Britain after all. And where in Britain are we? Well, we're on the lovely Kent coast, we're in Whitstable. And we're here because just 3 miles down the road is the UK headquarters of Icom. And waiting for us there is the new Icom 7610. So I can't wait to get my hands on that. But before we do that, the other reason we're in Whitstable is because there's a DMR repeater here, and that's GB7EK. So a question for you. What have DMR repeaters and parrots got to do with each other? Well, I'll do a quick demonstration for you. Hello, this is Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray portable testing.
This is Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray portable testing.
The parrot letting me know that I'm getting into the repeater okay. So more on parrots and DMR and how to get into the DMR network if you don't have a repeater near you using the RF Shark OpenSpot.
Parrots and sharks, all in the same episode. Plus, we return to the skies and find out more about the art of working through linear satellites. Our long-awaited overview of the IC-7610. In our free-to-enter draw, a chance to win a Prism dust cover for your IC-7610 or any rig of your choice, along with a copy of Andrew Barron's book, AMSATs and HAMSATs. But first, it's down to deepest Cornwall with Bob and Mike.
Hello and welcome to the G0FGX Shack. In fact, you've been here more recently than this bloke, G1IAR. How long was it since you were last here?
It's got to be at least 15 years.
So any changes since you were last here?
Yeah, lots actually. More cables coming through the window,
yes,
that's for sure.
Yeah.
And definitely more radios. You've got more stuff in the shack than you had the last time. From outside of the hobby, I know anybody walking in here now would definitely be going, why do you need all this stuff? Why do you need all these radios?
Funnily enough, Mrs. McCready says that quite a lot. You can't be on them all at once. I said, you'd be surprised.
I get that, but because I'm inside the hobby, I know exactly why you've got all this clobber around you. You need more radios, and you can never have enough aerials, right?
And there's always new things to be doing in amateur radio, which is why we're here. And we're going to be talking about the radio that's in the middle there, the Yaesu FT847, an oldie but a goodie, because we're going to talk satellites. Now, you remember Mike and I went up onto the Dorset cliff tops with a handheld radio and an Arrow handheld antenna, and we worked through SO50.
Yep,
and
successfully.
Yeah, you got a QSO, which was great. But if you remember how that worked, that was just basically like an FM repeater in the sky. So one channel up on the uplink on 2 meters, one channel down on the downlink on 70 SEMS, and only one conversation possible at a time, just like on a repeater.
Yeah.
In the UK. And the reason that it's cross-band, of course, and I think we explained this last time, is that on a repeater on the ground, of course, you can separate them, have them in the same band, separated by, say, 600 kcs down, which is what happens in the UK, because you have those great big cavities that we covered off in an earlier episode of TX Factor, actually. You can't have those up in a satellite.
And why is that? Because the satellite, on average, is how big?
Well, some of them are only like this big, aren't they?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You're not going to be flying cavities up there, so crossband is easier. So what would make life easier on an FM satellite or any satellite working would be if we could work full duplex.
But what actually is full duplex?
Well, that means being able to listen at the same time as transmit. So as we're transmitting on the uplink, we're able to listen to the downlink at the same time.
Okay.
So the obvious way to do that would be with 2 radios. So we could have one for transmitting and one for listening. Or there are a few that do it all in one box. And actually, I grabbed earlier on a copy of this. You remember we gave this away when we did our last satellite chat on TX Factor. This is Getting Started with Amateur Satellites, published by AMSAT. And they do publish in here a useful list that mentions some of the radios in one box that do full duplex. And I didn't know this, but the Flex 5000 actually does, if you've got the 2 meter and 77 modules. But there's various radios. The TS2000 is one, which I think, is that still in production? I think that still is.
Could be.
I think that still is. But the 847, which we're going to use today, isn't.
No.
So much prized by people who want to work satellites. And there are some older Yaesus, various rigs that you can get. Another solution would be to use an SDR receiver, because a lot of people have got a FunCube dongle or one of those RTL dongles or some kind of other SDR receiver. So if you used your multi-mode 2 meter stroke 77s rig
for transmit,
and then for receive use the SDR, the advantage of that would be that you'd be able to look on the waterfall and see that whole chunk of the transponder and see all the signals at once.
So you're getting an actual visual of where there might be possibility of a contact before you've really heard it and found it.
So you can pounce on it and then tune yourself into it. So that would be quite an advantage. So that's going to make life a lot easier, particularly when we come to work through a linear transponder, which is what we're going to try and do today.
Okay. Now, what's a linear transponder? You've got to bear with me because I'm a little bit of a satellite newbie.
I thought you might ask that question. Well, a linear transponder essentially just means that whatever mode you transmit up to is what comes down. So with our FM box, SO50, it's an FM repeater. So it only does FM. It doesn't do sideband, CW or karaoke. You know, it's only going to do the one thing. Whereas this linear transponder will, whatever we put up, so it would do FM. If you transmitted to it in FM, it would send FM down. If you transmitted in sideband or CW, we don't use FM through them because they've only got so much bandwidth, and FM is quite bandwidth heavy.
But the linear transponder satellites, what you're saying is effectively they're all multi-mode.
Yeah, what you put in is what you get out.
Okay, all right.
And they come in two flavours, just to confuse things a bit further: inverting and non-inverting.
Do we go down this route now, or is that for another day?
No, we can talk about that now. So an inverting transponder, effectively, if on the uplink you were tuning up in frequency, on the downlink you'd be going down in frequency.
Okay.
And if you transmit up on lower sideband, you'd be coming down on upper sideband, because it's inverted the whole band. Okay, so for the up to the down, it gets inverted. If it was non-inverting, then the uplink would go in the same direction as the downlink, and what you put up would be the same when it came down. Does that make sense?
Are you keeping up?
Sort of makes sense.
I am just about.
Right.
Yeah, I got it.
Well, our cameraman's nodding, so he's got it. Maybe he should do this instead of us. So, this is relatively straightforward. It seems like there's so much information to absorb. And that's where, coming back to this book, this book is really handy because it encapsulates all this information. There are other books available. There's some good ARRL ones, which I've got. Loads of resources online. And remember, we'll put all that information up in our show notes as well, because I think that really helps afterwards. And, of course, the other big difference this time is we're warm and comfy inside the shack instead of standing on a windy cliff top with the Armstrong rotator waving that arrow antenna around.
Yeah, well, waving the antenna around actually made perfect sense to me because you were in total control of trying to track down what you're trying to receive. So that made sense to me. Now we're at home in your shack. That's a whole different kettle of fish. What about antennas at home?
A couple of ways that you can approach this, actually, because you don't have to have an azimuth and elevation rotator. I've been playing with satellites on and off for about 10 years now. And for 9.5 of those years, I just had my antennas. I had two antennas. I had a Yagi for 2 meters and a Yagi for 77s, but I just had them up at about 30 degrees elevation. So instead of mounting them horizontal, just had them on a standard rotator, but permanently at about 30 degrees. And it's amazing how much of the passes you can cover.
Yeah,
with
even at that low elevation.
Yeah, so I got a lot of QSOs.
But what you're saying is if you want to start seriously playing satellite radio from home, then it's probably a good idea to have your antennas aiming at the sky.
They've got to be fully steerable, really, to get full benefit. But you can, I must stress, you can have a lot of QSOs. You can even have reasonable QSOs when the lower parts of the passes, or passes that don't go that high over you, with your antennas actually horizontal.
Right.
Even just with your normal antennas that you might have up on a rotator already, you can have a dabble.
Right.
But what I've got only recently, I acquired a very old Yaesu G5400B rotator. Which, much to my delight, actually worked. So I've got that up on the mast outside, and that gives me azimuth and elevation. So azimuth, that's the roundy.
Yep.
Elevation,
360s.
up and downy.
Okay.
So now I can now point my antennas directly at the satellite within reason, because if you are going to be limited, as I am, I live at the bottom of a valley, so you are going to be limited by the topography around you. So the fact that you can track the satellites more accurately with an azimuth and elevation rotator, there's still going to be some elevations
Trees
you
in the
can't
way,
see, or big hills I've got
Yeah.
over there. So when the satellite's below the hill, it doesn't matter how good your tracking is, you're not going to see it.
Yeah.
So that's it. We're ready to go with that azimuth and elevation antennas.
Okay, but what kind of antennas are you using with your ASI and LE rotator?
So I've got two antennas up on the rotator on a T-bar. So you've got the rotator, a T-bar going through the elevation rotator so it can rotate that way. And I've got a 2 meters Yagi on one end, which I've got vertically polarized.
Okay.
And I've got a 70 SEMS antenna on the other end, which is horizontally polarized. 2 feed lines down into the shack. And also I have got a preamp on the 70 SEMS antenna, and you're going to pretty much need that. You might get away with it on 2 meters without one, which I do, even though it's quite a long cable run. Obviously I've got very low loss coax as well. But the preamp on 70 SEMS without it, with the cable run I've got, I don't think I'd hear a lot.
Right, okay.
So masthead preamp up there as well.
Is
You
a
need a
must,
good
okay.
quality low noise preamp up
Yeah.
there. And the polarization of the antennas, that's a whole interesting discussion as well, because some people say you should have circularly polarized antennas.
I was going to
Because,
say, what is your starting point?
well, yeah,
for
a
putting
lot of the
those-
satellites are circularly polarized.
Right.
But it really, in the ideal setup, I think you'd want switchable polarization. So if you could switch them horizontal, vertical, left circular or right circular, that would be the perfect world. Okay,
But
if you
too
could
many
afford
switches,
that.
too many buttons, lots of cables.
For the future, that's what I'm aiming for. I'd love to be able to do
Yeah.
that. But I've just gone for mounting the 2 meters vertical and the 70 SEMS horizontal, because that gives the best separation between them. If they were both horizontal,
Yeah.
then the 2 meter elements would be closer to the
Yeah.
70 SEMS. So that's basically the non-science behind the way
Okay.
I've done it, just to keep them separated.
Okay, so I'm totally getting, you've got total control over your antenna, elevation and azimuth, and swinging it around to pick up the satellite. But how do you know which satellite you want to talk through is around to be able to talk through at any point of the day? How do you find out where they are at any given point?
First of all, this is a moment to say a big thank you to all the people around the world who work so hard building these satellites and blagging the launches for them as well, because I think we're very well blessed at the moment. There's a lot of new satellites up there. There's
The whole time.
a couple more FM satellites up there. I think 4 in total, actually, FM satellites up there at the moment, and a load more linear transponders up there. So there's really a lot of opportunities,
Right.
a lot of chances through the day to
Yeah.
catch passes. But to find them, back to our old friend Orbitron, for me,
Yeah.
there are lots of different, I must stress, there are plenty of different programs available for tracking satellites, which just happens to be the one I use and that we looked at last time,
Yeah, I remember it, yeah.
to find SO50.
But I
when
guess
wanted
once
to work
you've got
it.
a program you're happy to use quickly, it's not complicated for you to use, that's what you stick with, even if it's old hat. And Orbitron's quite an old program.
It's quite an old program, and
but it's good.
so the satellite that we're going to try and work through next, Mikey, is EO79. And so if I click on that, we can see the track that's going to take. 1203, he's going to be there. If we miss that one, then we'll try LO87, which is coming over there.
So how do you know you can actually use the satellite?
Well, if you click on any of these satellites, if you look, you get a little white circle comes around it, and that is the actual footprint of the satellite. So that's the bit of the Earth the satellite can see. So if your location falls within the footprint, then you can work through it. And the further to the edge of that circle you are, the lower the elevation is going to be.
All right, I get that, but how does the program know where all the satellites are at any point in time?
Well, you have to update the Keplerian elements, or the KEPs, which change all the time because the orbits of the satellites change slightly
Constantly,
all the time.
yeah.
So you have to have updated KEPs so that the software can accurately predict
Yeah.
where the satellites are going to be. And in Orbitron, you can update them directly by going to the updater. You click on the TLE updater, and the person who's put all this software together provides an update on the satellites. But sometimes it doesn't have all the newest satellites.
Okay.
So what I do is I get the latest NASA KEPs, and these are available from the AMSAT America webpage.
Okay.
So from the AMSAT page, they've got a link directly to them. Here they are. And they come up in sort of like notepad format. So what I do is miss all this gubbins out at the top, but from just there by the first satellite on the list is I copy it all the way.
Oh, that is
Quite
a
a
big
list,
list,
isn't it? to the bottom of that massive list of satellites. We don't want to know about all of these really, because there's some meteorological satellites in there. I don't use the digipeters or the digital satellites, but there's quite a lot of those, so some people will be interested in those, but that's everything that's up there, some of it not even active anymore. So we copy that list, and then I go to load TLE, on Orbitron, which is where it's going to pick up the info from, and I load it from my HamKeps file.
Okay.
And then once you've loaded it, then you've got this list appears here. That's the whole, all the satellites, but they've got tick boxes next to them. So the ones we actually want displayed on the screen, we tick the box for, and then we can see them.
Okay, so your screen is just populated with the satellites you're actually interested in.
Yep.
Right. But how do you actually know which satellites you do want to select?
That's a good point. Well, AMSAT UK is a fantastic resource. So if you go to the AMSAT UK page, there's so much information. All the latest sat news is there. And this tab here, satellites, if you scroll down to active satellite frequencies, and there we go.
Right. I was going to say this, because the working through a satellite, you need current information the whole time, don't you?
So this is based on people's real-time reports on what they've heard. So if it's blue, the transponder's active; yellow, just the telemetry beacon only, no signal, conflicting reports. That one's ISS.
So you can save yourself wasting a lot of time.
So you can have a look and see which satellites we want to use here, because we can see which ones are working.
But like most aspects of the hobby, you need to arm yourself with a fair amount of information.
You do.
Just to be able to do this properly. But once you've got all that information and the details you need of the parameters that you use within this part of the hobby, you're good to go.
Yeah, and it's pulling that in from all the different sources. So AMSAT UK website, brilliant resource. The AMSAT America website, brilliant resource. There's loads of stuff on there. I know I've mentioned it a few times already, but this Getting Started in Satellites book from AMSAT is fantastic. Packed full of info. I'd take that one away if I were you, because it does answer a lot of the questions that you've asked. So that's a good one to swap up on. A couple of other books I've got. There's two here from the ARRL, which are of varying ages that I've bought over the years. You might be able to get these second-hand. I think there's probably an up-to-date version of this one, actually. The one thing that a book can't kind of keep up with these days is the new satellites.
I was going to say, and the data,
Yeah, it can't keep up with that. But what it can do is give you really loads of detail about how to build your own antennas, what kind of antennas you can use.
That basic information is never
all that
going to
information,
change.
Cable runs, what kind of cable to use, what kind of preamps to use. And that's where the detail of a book like that is very useful. So, we've done enough talking about it.
Let's make a contact.
We need to work through a satellite.
Oh, they work so well together. Find out whether they make a successful contact later in the show. After the break, programming your DMR handie, code plugs, and setting up a Shark OpenSpot. Are you thinking of moving into the world of digital radio? The Anytone D868UV from Lynch and Sons combines analog and digital DMR capabilities across both the 2-meter VHF and 70 centimeters UHF bands. With a quoted 6 watt RF output and programming software available, you can be assured that this handheld can be tailored to cover a range of amateur-based applications with ease. Are you an avid user of Zello, Echolink or TeamSpeak? Why not free up your PC or mobile phone and move into the world of network radio dedicated devices, such as the Enrico TM8 or Enrico T320. Operate your favorite app through an interface based on traditional mobile or handheld transceivers. For more information on these and the full range of amateur radio transceivers and accessories, see our website, Lynch and Sons, the world's favorite ham store.
In the introduction to this episode of TX Factor, I mentioned parrots and their connection with DMR. We're introducing another animal, a bit of aquatic life now, and that's sharks. It's all very confusing, isn't it? So that's why I've come to Gary, as we always do here, Lynch and Sons, to try and find out a bit more. Now, these have been flying off the shelves, haven't they?
Yes, they have. They've introduced a very special price on those. They've almost halved the price of this product. There is, I believe there's a new one on the horizon, but it doesn't mean to say this is in any way bad. It's actually a brilliant device, and the money that it is at the moment it's amazing value.
In summary then, what does this little device do? Well, we plug it in to its power supply. It comes with its own power supply. You plug an Ethernet connection in here, which connects into your router. So this box is now connected to the internet. And then with this antenna here, it runs low power RF to connect to your handset. So whether you're connecting on D-Star or Fusion or DMR or whatever, that's how you're going to connect to this. And then as it connects to the internet, the world is your lobster.
It will give you C4FM, gives you DMR, it gives you D-Star. It also, if you've got a DMR radio, it will give you some kind of cross mode as well.
This is running about 20 milliwatts,
That's
isn't
correct,
it, from
yeah.
this little antenna.
Yeah.
So that's going to sort of basically cover our property. But as I say, kids, remember this, don't plug it into an external antenna because you will widen the coverage area. And there is a good chance then that there's going to be third-party traffic going through it. And without an NOV, you can't do that. Now, the setting up of this is pretty straightforward. But then there's a hurdle people fall at after that. So we'll talk about how you set this up so you're up and running. But then people go, and I set mine up, bought mine about 3 weeks ago, then got to the next hurdle, which was, yeah, it's all set up and working. My hand is talking to it. But now I haven't got any talk groups. How do I get off the calling channel and QSY elsewhere and get to the CQ UK room and talk to all those Fusion people? How do I do that? So perhaps that's what we can show people how to do in a moment.
Okay, well we can jump on and have a quick look, and I know we've just downloaded your code plug, and we can see what you've done.
The setting up of the OpenSpot is pretty straightforward, isn't it, Gary? Because the manual is all there online.
It is. First thing you need to do is just pop along to the RF Shark website, and you quite simply click on the user manual link, which will then take you into the manual itself. And if you just follow through each of the sort of sets of instructions, it will lead you on quite quickly to this a couple of links here. The open HTTP OpenSpot local or HTTP OpenSpot in your browser.
Right. So there's a little web server inside
Yep.
your OpenSpot, and all your configuration is done by accessing it through the web interface, which you can do on your computer, or you could do it on a tablet, you could do it on your phone, and it takes you then into your configuration page. I think it's fair to say there's it's not loads, but we won't go through it all now because it's going to depend what mode you're planning to use. We're going to be using DMR.
Yeah. The one thing I would say first of all is just keep out of the advanced area for the moment until you really truly understand what's going on. The default password is OpenSpot, and then you can just go straight in. It's very simple. Follow the instructions through. There are loads and loads of guide videos on there. They've done an amazing job of doing that for people.
Yeah, I found for me that was the easy bit.
Yeah, it is very easy, and it will actually prompt you along the way as well of what the next move will be. For instance, if you haven't set the modem type up, which you'll also need to do, it will ask you. It wants to guide you through as much as it can.
If you get stuck, as you say, there's lots of videos, you can see all that there. The obvious things you're going to have to do is put in the frequency that you're using on your radio.
Yep.
And so we'll set this one that you've got here up with the frequency I had set up for my home spot, and then we'll be able to, show it working.
Yep.
But this was where I hit the barrier. So I've set up my OpenSpot, it all worked fine.
Yep.
And then I looked in my, here comes that word, code plug, and there wasn't anything in there really to work with my OpenSpot. It was all set up for working with repeaters.
Yeah.
And this is where me and I think a lot of other users then draw a blank, go, oh, what do we have to do to set up the radio? So that's what we'll talk about next. And just before perhaps we swap seats and I jump in and show how I set mine up, a code plug. It's a horrible word, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's historical. It comes from the Motorola days when, that they would actually provide a software sort of code plug, as it were, and that's all you've got to remember.
And we've all done this before. Any of us who've ever programmed a radio in the last 10 years, rather than putting all the channels and repeaters in, we've done it using a bit of computer software. This is just the same thing with a bit more depth. Before you can set up your radio to use it with the RF Shark OpenSpot, you've got to set it up to use DMR. And the first thing you need is a DMR ID. No happy repeater bleepers on this network, because every time you use it, you're identified by your ID. Go to DMR Mark, and you can register your ID. Just click on here and it will tell you how to do that. You do need to be able to give them a copy of your license. So if you download your license from Ofcom, that PDF copy of your license you submit to them to prove you are who you say you are, and you will get a DMR ID, and I think you get it pretty instantly. So once you've done all the necessary things, you scroll to the top of the page, your DMR ID will be there. And once you've got your DMR ID, then there is a general settings page in your radio where you need to put that information in, your call sign and your ID. I don't think I needed to adjust any of the others. The time zone UTC plus 0 I put in as my time zone. The rest of it you can just leave as is and you'll be ready to rock. So you do need to do that before you do anything else. I'll tell you what, this is going to be fun because I've got to actually remember what I did, Gary, because I found my way around this myself. So this was my solution to setting up the radio. So we go into our code plug, which, as we've said, is just the software interface with the radio to program the channels. And as Gary said, it's all in layers. So your starting point with setting up your DMR radio is your digital contact list. Now, if we open that up, we can see it's populated with loads of stuff here. So it's all full of things. Unfortunately, none of these contacts are going to be useful with our RF OpenSpot, because we'll see, if we look at the popular channels here, like the UK-wide talk group 80, or we can even find the calling channel here, the UK-wide one, which is called talk group 235. You'll hear people talking about that on the air. Its call ID on our list here is 235. Works fine with the repeater, which is why these are all in here. It's not going to work with your OpenSpot. So you actually, the first thing you need to do is add to your digital contact list. If you're going to be using the Phoenix network, then what you need to do is go on and look up all the reflector numbers that are relevant to the channels or talk groups that you want to use. So for example, the UK-wide calling channel, which, as I just told you, they call confusingly talk group 235 if you're using it on a repeater, its reflector number is actually 4400, and that's what your OpenSpot wants to know about. It wants to know you want to connect to that reflector. So we're going to create, very quickly, you would create yourself a new bunch of contacts, which you do just by clicking add, and then you would get, this would be called contact 1 because you haven't called it anything yet. So to show you the ones that I've already prepared, my UK-wide calling is here. I called it 4400 UK calling. The ID is the reflector number 4400, and that's basically, it's a group call as well. So we set up one of those contacts on that list for each of the reflectors or talk groups we want to use. Keep it really easy, first of all, and you could just put in the UK-wide calling one, and then these are the various channels you can QSY to off, if you like, the calling channel. So reflector 4401, which they call talk group 80, 4402, 4403, and you could call them whatever will make it easiest for you to find them when you're actually using them. Having set up your digital contact list, you then need to set up your receive group. So this is slightly confusing because this is fine for sending. You've got to decide with DMR how you're listening, what you're listening to, and your OpenSpot always talks back to your radio on talk group 9. So what you do is, in your digital RX group call list, I created a new one called OpenSpot, and you create a new one just by going to the top here and right-clicking on it, clicking add. That's given us one here that we could create, which is a new one. And all it does is it shows you your whole list of all your digital contacts there, and you need to pull one of them across here for your OpenSpot. So I called it Phoenix OpenSpot, and we just pulled across 9 local. That's the only one we need in receive to use with our OpenSpot. It was on this list, doesn't show there now because I pulled it across. And we've saved it under the name OpenSpot. We've done that. Then we go to our channels. You've got a whole load of channels here already, but we've got to make new ones. So again, for each of the channels that we are going to want to use with our OpenSpot, or each of the talk groups or reflectors, we create a new channel for it. On my particular setup here, you add new channels by right-clicking at the top, and it says add. And when you do that, and you go down to the bottom of the list, there will be a channel waiting to be created. So if we look at that, there's no information in that one already. If we look at one I've already created, this is how I set up the UK calling. The frequency is the frequency that my radio is talking to the OpenSpot on. All of this is pretty straightforward. You can just leave all those pretty much as they are. You can set a power level. If you're just using this around your house, obviously your handy power level can be low. Mine allows me to set that. So what's the contact name? You get that from this drop down menu. That's from our list of contacts that we created, and we've created that new one called 4400 UK calling. So that's our contact name. Now this is important, the group list, Phoenix OpenSpot. Remember, that's where we've selected talk group 9, so we can hear what the Shark is sending back to us. So we select that, and that's one channel created, and we just go down and create a new channel for each of the rooms that we want to use, or reflectors, or whatever you want to call them. So I've called that UK Chat 1. That's talk group 80. I know this is confusing, but that's the first placed QSY2 from the calling channel, and so on. I've got CQ wires X here. The frequency is always the same. It's the frequency we talk to our RF OpenSpot on. The contact name is UK wires X because we created the contact, so it'll be there on my drop-down menu. And the group list for receive is Phoenix OpenSpot because we created that earlier. We talked group 9. We do that for all the channels we need. Then the last of our layers, we go to our zone information. And these are all the zones. You've got loads of those already in your core plug because those have all been created for the various repeaters. So same thing, we'll click on add at the top here. See zone 1 at the bottom here. It's just created for us. If we clicked on that, so here we go. It's called it zone 1 because we haven't given it a name yet. So we could call this zone our Phoenix OpenSpot, or because it's good to give it a name that refers to this particular connection with the OpenSpot, because remember, we could be connecting to other networks. So we'll call it OpenSpot Phoenix. Then we go down this list on the left here, and all the new channels that we created to use with our OpenSpot, starting with my 4400 UK calling, are all down here. So we will just select them all, and so on down the list, and drag them across here to make them members of channel A. And actually, that's because mine's a dual band radio. I can put other things in channel B. I actually put all the analog channels in there, so don't worry about that. But we select them across here, pull them into this channel list for channel A, and we've created a zone that's called Phoenix OpenSpot that has all those channels in. Then, of course, the important thing is we have to upload this new version of the code plug to the radio, so it has that update. And then when you switch your radio on, you're going to be able to go to the zone that's called Phoenix OpenSpot that you've created, and you'll be able to step through all of these reflectors here that we've created, all of those reflector channels, because they all live in that zone. And then when you want to use one, quick burst of the PTT, and we can just prove that that's the case by using the channels we programmed in here on the radio we've got over here. The repeater I was using just before we got here to Martin Lynch's was the Heathrow repeater. So to find our hotspot, we've created a zone for it, remember? So let's go down to our zone list, click on that, and then we should be able to step through here and find our Phoenix hotspot. There we are, Phoenix hotspot. So we'll select that on, please. And the hotspot is now selected, and now we can scroll through. You see I've got an FM repeater at the bottom, my local Helston repeater there, but on the top here we're scrolling through those various reflectors and chat rooms. There we are. I'm just scrolling through to the Parrot, which is one of the reflectors I put in here. You remember we used it at the top of the show when we were in Whitstable to check we were getting into the repeater. Well, we can do the same with the OpenSpot. Thanks very much, Gary, for sharing your insights into the OpenSpot with us.
You're more than welcome.
Getting us started on this. So shall I take it outside and see if I can get into the OpenSpot from there?
Go for it.
Okay, let's give it a go. Golf 0, Foxtrot, Golf X-ray, portable testing.
Golf 0, Foxtrot, Golf X-ray, portable testing.
There, it works. And don't forget, if you want more information on this, because it is a bit mind-numbing when you first try and get your head around it, you'll find more at txfactor.co.uk in our show notes. Good luck.
We might need it. Still to come, a chance to win 2 prizes in our free-to-enter draw and Linear Satellites Part 2. But coming next, an overview of Icom's new IC-7610. And that's after the break. The Radio Society of Great Britain is proud to be a sponsor of TX Factor. The Legacy Committee's trustees work with the RSGB board to consider proposals for the use of the RSGB Legacy Fund. This fund, thanks to the generosity of donors, has resources available to encourage and develop amateur radio. Some excellent projects have already been supported that fit into the following amateur radio areas: spectrum pollution and interference, amateur radio direction finding, young people, construction of equipment, developing the use of SDR. The fund's objectives are deliberately wide, and the projects must make a difference for lots of people. The committee welcomes proposals that will develop amateur radio and make it more accessible. To find out more, see the guidelines to help you draft your proposal and download an application form. Go to the Legacy Committee's page on the RSGB website. The fund is able to do more and is always looking for good proposals. The RSGB Legacy Fund, helping good ideas happen.
Okay, just to avoid confusion here, in this next item we have two Bobs. So you don't get mixed up, I'm TX Factor Bob and this is Icom Bob, and your call sign, Bob?
G6KKW.
And here, the star of the show, is this radio we've waited so long for, the Icom 7610. We had a very big build up to it. At last it's here, it's flying off the shelves now. So first up, Bob, why do you think that this concept of putting an SDR into a box with knobs and switches and a tuning knob, why do you think that's proved so popular with the amateur community?
Well, it's far easier to set up than a computer. There's far more integration, and the user interface is so much easier.
And of course, when you want to get to those very important functions, when it's a button push away, that's easier often than stepping through a lot of menus on a screen. Yes. And the simple action of tuning the radio, to me, turning a knob, is just so much easier than trying to do it with a mouse.
Yes, people haven't really taken to cursors and mice and things like that, and they do prefer the traditional controls on a radio.
So that's the reason that the IC-7300 has proved so popular. So then the evolutionary process that runs through with Icom radios, we have gone from the IC-7300 to this, the IC-7610, which I heard somebody describe as, like the 7300 but on steroids. So what has this got to offer that its little brother hasn't?
Well, it's got two receivers for a start, two identical receivers with Digicel on both.
I'm going to stop you there. Digicel, what is that? Because that's not on the 7300.
It's a very high Q pre-selector, and it enables you to focus in on a signal and take the adjacent channels out.
And that's on both receivers?
On both.
So it just gets rid of the splatter, the adjacent channel splatter, which is great if you're contesting, or even if you're just doing a bit of de-exiting, trying to winkle out that weak signal in your shack. All the help we can get with that is a good thing. What else will we find in this radio?
The performance of this radio seems to sit between the 7300 and the 7851. It's more or less in the centre. Very high quality receiver for contest use, for DXing, for operating in noisy environments. It's got a host of noise reduction features which you can actually use. Obviously on an SDR, as opposed to a super het, you can use the noise blanker without it trashing the receiver performance.
What about the front end filtering? They have separate front end filtering? So
yes.
Well, this is a big advantage because there have been radios before where you have a sub receiver, but you can't really go more than one band away from the main receiver. So, but this you can go anywhere.
Anywhere, yeah. Obviously, with this thing having a second receiver, you could have a second receive antenna on that second port. You can still use the S meter off the main receiver whilst you're receiving on a lower gain antenna on the second, so you can give an accurate report while you're still taking a noise-free signal.
Another great feature with the IC-7610 is the ability to display our brilliant colour touchscreen here on a big monitor. And how do you do that? Do you just plug it straight in?
It's got a DVI output, and if you want to use an HDMI lead, a simple adapter, an HDMI connector, and you're in.
It is fantastic to be able to have all that information off that screen on this big screen here, and it really does make a difference. I think when you're looking at the waterfall there, you can see what the signals look like, and you've got so much other information that this radio can put up on a screen. It is really good, I guess, to have it in the big version so that you can look at the audio and all kinds of things, and we'll get to some of those things later on. As we've said, one of the great things about this radio is it's got these two identical receivers in it, so how can we use them both at once?
Well, we've got a dual watch button and a main and sub button. Dual watch puts both receivers on at once, and the sub and main just selects between them. So if we go on to a band that's got some signals,
and 20 metres doing what it usually does at this time of day, which is dying on us,
and then go on to the sub, We can set that one onto 40 as well. Put it on dual watch, we've got both of the receivers on, and then it's either that one or that one, and they're identical.
There's a lot of uses for two receivers. I guess we could have different antennas on them and do diversity reception.
Yeah, or indeed, as you say, with diversity, you can have two different antennas so that when one is selectively fading, the other one's enhanced, and it gets rid of a lot of the variation.
So I suppose you could be having a QSO on one frequency whilst you're listening on another completely different band, completely different frequency for that sked that you're waiting to be called into.
Or indeed, you could be talking back on 80 metres. If you're working somewhere on the other side of the world on 20, you can be talking to your pal in this country and saying, have you heard that one on 20?
So that does mean we've got great flexibility in what we can do with this radio with the two receivers, and the fact that they are genuinely identical receivers and they've got exactly the same processing on both. Talking of which, let's dig a little bit deeper into some of the processing that this radio will do for us.
Okay, so we've got the standard Icom 3-position filter. Each one of the 3 filter selections you can customise, have it exactly how you want it, and that's selected.
So you've actually got quite an adjustment there that you can go either side. So if you've got that annoying signal HF of you or LF of you that's stopping you from hearing what you want, you can centre it in and get the bandwidth that you want. And I think what's great as well is when you are adjusting these filters here by moving them backwards and forwards, you've got that visual representation of what you're doing. So you've got some visual feedback, you've got the feedback of how it sounds, which gives you a bit more of an understanding of what you're actually doing.
That's right, and it helps teach people what to do in a certain set of circumstances.
And it talks about sharp and soft. What's the difference in the filtering?
Well, you'd normally use the sharp filter settings for a CW signal, and typically a soft one for SSB. It gives you a nicer sounding result.
You did mention something called Digicel earlier on.
Yeah, Digicel is a very high Q pre-selector, which you put in front of the receiver, and it protects the receiver from strong out-of-band or out-of-channel signals.
Well, on cue, we have got a stronger signal that's popped up. There's been a bit of a dearth of signals, I have to say, but somebody just did pop up that was quite strong. So if we switch, that's it, switch in the Digicel.
You see the Digicel take it off?
Yeah.
Shift it one way, shift it the other.
So you do get quite a movement there as it goes above and below, and it really does have a strong effect on that splatter that you get. A good example would be on those days when the band is full of contesters, or if you're trying to contest yourself.
Yeah, that's the real advantage. That's why this makes a great contester's radio.
I'll tell you what, Bob, I am loving this big display, and it's particularly helpful when we're trying to explain to everybody what the radio does. And this shows us nicely that you can get a lot of information from the radio about what's going on with all the metering you've got here.
For example, at the moment we're setting up with the multifunction meter so that you can see simultaneously your S meter, relative power output, ALC voltage, compression, SWR and current drawn by the PA. That's a multifunction meter, but we can also change the S meter to a different pattern, take the spectrum scope on, put an audio band scope on. We can do things like this.
And people with a 7300 will be familiar with that kind of menu. And if you haven't used that before, it's very easy, isn't it? You just go to the menu, touch the thing you want, you press the button, and we've now got
an audio scope.
An audio scope, which is great, and that's transmitted audio and receive audio.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's this here?
That's a spectrum of the that's the waveform. That's a spectrum.
So that's a little chunk of the waterfall, essentially. Yeah. All right, what about all this stuff down the side here? We've got yet more on our display that's telling us things we can do with the radio.
Okay, well, we've got the antenna selector. You can select one of 2 antennas onto one of 2 receivers in any combination you like. A couple of preamps there, you can switch them on and off. The attenuator, that's either 0, 6, 12, 18 dB. IP plus, that's just like turning a preamp, the main front end off in an ordinary system.
I'm so glad you've explained that to me. Who else out there didn't know what an intercept point was? And you get this on radios, and it says, you know, the intercept point on, off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what does it mean? So you've got the preamps separately,
yes.
Those 2 preamps, so you can have one or lots of amplification, but you can, even if they're off, still, without putting attenuation in, you're just taking off some more amplification in the front end if you turn that off.
Just to improve the overall receiver's strong signal handling.
Brilliant. And of course, you do have attenuation if you actually need that.
Yeah.
So you can switch in attenuation as well. And the stuff we would expect, like being able to control the speed of the AGC and your Vox and your compressor and so on and so forth.
We've also got an RF gain control, which is actually an RF gain control. It's not an IF gain control like it is on most Super 8s. It's a proper RF gain control.
And that's on a knob on the front there as well.
Yeah.
So you can just adjust that straight away. We've talked about a lot of the clever stuff, the really clever stuff the Icom 7610 does, but it also has a lot of features in it that are the standard things that we'd expect to find in a radio. So what about the power output?
Oh, we just hit the multifunction button. That gives you a lot of the widely used ones. RF power is the front one. Touch that, and then you can adjust the RF power right down.
So we've got sort of one-touch access to the important stuff, mic gain, the digicell we talked about earlier, and the notch filter and so on.
Yeah.
You can get all those
Monitor
from there.
level.
And an ATU, it has a built-in ATU?
It operates as a standard ATU in most sets. Like it'll match up to 3-to-1 SWR at full power. But in emergency mode, if you come down to 50 watts, it'll match up to a 10-to-1 SWR.
So that is quite a variation, really, isn't it? We got very excited about the fact we were able to look at everything on this big screen, which is great. But assuming we haven't got the monitor plugged in, when you're using the radio on its own, this touchscreen is very impressive, and it's pretty big. How big is it?
Yeah, it's a 7-inch TFT touchscreen.
And that's important as well, because we can do a lot of the operation of this radio. We've been showing you how it works on this big screen, but you touch things here and things happen. So it does make it very easy to use. Like the IC-7300 as well, it has an SDR card slot on it. Why do you need a card slot on a radio?
Well, you can record settings, you can record screenshots, you can record audio. You can do the firmware updates through that if you want to.
So there's a lot of things that we can do with this radio, including as well getting a separate IQ output from it. What do we use that for, Bob?
Any kind of further decoding that you want to do digitally.
And can you plug in a computer and do it that way? So if you want to do PSK and RTTY?
Yeah, if you want to, but PSK and RTTY you can decode on the set as well.
So they're actual options within the radio?
Yeah.
You can find those and it'll all display up here on the
That's right,
screen
yeah.
for you. No doubt then, it's a lot of radio in the package. Do you think this is going to capture the amateur radio community's imagination in the same way that 7300 did?
Yeah, this replaces the old 7600, which is the kind of top end amateur transceiver. It's a big seller for us, and this will probably be a very big seller for us as well.
So it's a radio that's going to be aimed at the serious DXer, the serious contester,
Yes.
and also the person who just wants a radio that will give them a lot of flexibility to do so many different things, because the hobby, in terms of what we can do, is growing all the time.
It is.
One last question. Something I like to do with my IC-7300, when I'm away from home, like I am at the moment, I can go back to the hotel, fire up my computer, dial into a computer at home that's connected to my 7300 and operate it remotely. Can we do that with this?
Yes, it's a bit simpler as well. You don't need a computer. It's got its own network driver there, so
This plugs straight into the internet,
it does via an Ethernet cable.
and then you don't need a server at the other end.
That's right.
You just link directly to the radio from the remote computer.
Yeah.
Now that sounds easier, because as anybody who's ever done any networking knows, that there is a little bit of that to set up doing it the other way, and that can be, and I haven't got that much hair left anyway, a reason to lose a bit more. So that sounds very straightforward indeed. So that's it, the new Icom IC-7610. It is available now, and I think we've just scratched the surface. Obviously, it's not till you sit down and start to play with it you're going to find out all of the bells and whistles.
Very easy, not confusing. Everybody loves it.
And I definitely would like one. Never mind, I'm quite happy with my 7300. And if you'd like to win a padded prism dust cover for your favourite rig, along with a copy of Andrew Barron's book AMSATs and HAMSATs, visit txfactor.co.uk for terms and conditions and how to enter. It's free and simple. Talking of which, here's Mike and Bob.
I think we're ready to have a bash at talking through a satellite
for it.
now. So the one we're going to try is one of these Chinese satellites, the XW2F is the one that's coming up next. And the great thing about Chinese satellites, if after you've had one you fancy another one very quickly afterwards, we've also got XW2C following on.
Behind, okay.
So we're getting 2 bites at this particular cherry.
I like it.
So you remember we mentioned that with linear transponders you get a segment of the band that is used for the uplink and a segment of the band that's used for the downlink.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this particular case, the transmit segment goes from 435 330 and it goes up to 435 350.
Okay.
And then the downlink segment on 2 meters goes from 146 and it works its way down from there down to 145 980.
Okay.
All right. And we can see this happen. So we've got on the 847, I've got this in the memories, so we've got our starting positions there. We've also got reverse tracking selected. And what happens if you've got reverse tracking on is as we turn the frequency upwards for the uplink, the downlink frequency automatically is going down.
Follows
it does that job for us.
Right.
So we might tune like that and find a signal. We can hear somebody calling. Then I'll take the tracking off and bleep a bit of carrier and net ourselves on top of them and then give them a call. And then we'll have to keep trying to adjust the receive frequency to cater for the Doppler.
Right,
And
okay.
keep track of them. But all kinds of fun and merriment ensue when some people leave their transmit frequency alone and just keep adjusting their Doppler, which makes it easier if you're both doing that. But sometimes other people are leaving their receive frequency alone and getting themselves back where they can hear themselves by moving their transmit frequency.
Is there an etiquette to get it right, or does it?
I think really you ought to tune your receive frequency and leave your transmit frequency stable so that you don't QSY transmit wise up through
Absolutely,
other QSOs. But really, you know, people do both things. So you've got to think about that in terms of keeping track of the person you're trying to work. And we could also just find ourselves a little spot by tuning into the passband of the satellite, take the tracking off, give ourselves a little bleep of carrier, rock this till we can hear ourselves, put it to sideband and start calling CQ.
Okay.
So those are our two approaches.
How long we got?
Not very long at all, and it's going to be with us. And of course, the best thing to do to check that we're actually hearing the satellite, I guess, is to listen for the CW beacon, which on this one is on 145975.
So for starters, that's a really good place to, you know, begin getting yourself locked in and being fairly confident that you're going to be able to hear this pass. Is check the beacon first.
And of course, because of the Doppler, it's going to be HF of that frequency, and it will come down through it. So we'll listen slightly HF.
Okay.
And the other thing that we could do is to point the antenna in the direction so we can fast forward our orbitron here a little bit. And this gives us a chance just to look ahead to see when it does hove into view exactly where it's going to be. So somewhere around...
prep the area ahead of arrival.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And because it's going to come right over the top of us, it's going to be moving pretty fast. So it's going to be like playing the piano, pushing these keys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so headphones on. Let's listen for that beacon.
Okay, yeah.
Should be with us any second.
Hang on a minute, can I hear something?
Yes, that's the CW beacon just down in the noise. So
Okay.
CQ-SAT, this is Golf 0, Foxtrot, Germany, X-ray. CQ-SAT and listening.
X-ray, Fox 8, Uniform Fox Tango. Uniform Fox Tango, QSO.
Foxtrot 8, Uniform Fox Tango. This is Golf 0, Foxtrot Golf X-ray. Hello, you're 5 and 9 in India Oscar 70 India Charlie. India Oscar 70 India Charlie, and the name here is Bob. Fox 8, Uniform Foxtrot Tango, Golf 0, Foxtrot Germany X-ray. Thank you very much, all copied 100% and 73s. Hello CQ-SAT, Golf 0, Foxtrot Germany X-ray, calling CQ-SAT. So we can hear ourselves coming through pretty well.
Yeah.
Just no one else coming back to us. And if we just quickly move to the SAT behind it, satellite, the XW1C. Hello CQ-SAT, Golf 0, Foxtrot Germany X-ray, CQ satellite. Florida 1, Florida Papa Lima. This is Golf 0, Foxtrot Golf X-ray. You're 5-9, India Oscar 70 India Charlie, QSL. Roger, QSL, and thank you very much indeed for the contact best 73s, and enjoy the rest of the weekend. This is Golf 0, Foxtrot Golf X-Ray 73.
73, bye-bye.
Boom.
Hello, CQSat Golf 0, Foxtrot Golf X-Ray, G0FGX, CQ satellite.
Well done.
Well, we had a QSO. We had 2 QSOs. So we managed to do it.
That's a high five moment.
Yeah, there we go. We did it. Interestingly, we've got some very high noise levels. And do you know what I'm wondering? I think it might be the lights
Okay.
that we're using here.
Maybe what, interfering with the radio?
Giving us, because we do seem at different points in the satellite passbands to hit quite loud noises, which do give us a little bit of trouble. So it might be something like that. Could be our lights that we're running here that we don't normally have close by.
But you know what? You kind of haven't got time to worry about all of that. You've just got to hit the ground and do this.
Absolutely.
Your arms and legs were flying around like crazy.
Yeah,
trying
so
to
we
keep
were
up with everything.
keeping up with everything, trying to... and also, it was interesting because the operator that we worked there was very experienced. He was quick and he kept it on channel.
Okay.
Or kept it on frequency. And I think the first guy that we worked was also probably a newbie. I'm just guessing, but because he was struggling to get back onto the same frequency every time, and I was trying to chase him and he was trying to chase me, and we were losing each other.
So 2 wrongs making another wrong.
Yeah, whereas that second guy that we worked there, the Fox 1, Fox Bravo Lima, he was very quick, he was bang on the frequency, made it easy for me. I only had to give a little bit of a tweak for the Doppler.
Right, but you have to admit, and I noticed your arms and legs were flying everywhere because you were constantly moving the antenna and you were retuning the radio the whole time. So it really is kind of, like you said, octopus action.
Yeah, I think it was just arms I was moving around, I think. I didn't use my legs, although maybe that's a technique for the future.
Switch.
Yes, that's what I need. But I could make life a lot easier for myself by computer controlling the azimuth elevation rotator. I think that would then leave you free to just worry about the radio. But that is part of the fun. You know, it's an achievement when you get a QSO and you do so much, you work quite hard to get your contacts, and you can get some really great DX contacts through the satellites. It's just something a little bit different. And hopefully when you have your first contact through a linear transponder, you'll have a good operator at the other end, because that helps a lot as well to make it easier for you if the other person is very experienced. Anyway, bottom line question, do you now feel like you'd like to give it a go?
For sure. Even as a newbie, I'm itching to have a crack. Can I have a go now?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And just remember, that's amateur radio. Have a go. And there's room for everybody within those linear transponders. You're not really going to get in anybody's way. And hopefully the true spirit of amateur radio will prevail, and other hams will help you through that first QSO.
Right, let's do it. My go. Okay. CQSat, CQSat, CQSat. Hello, CQSat. This is Golf 1 India Alpha Romeo stroke Alpha. Golf 1 India Alpha Romeo stroke Alpha. CQSat, CQSat.
TX Factor is brought to you in association with Martin Lynch and Sons, the world's favourite ham store. And the Radio Society of Great Britain is proud to sponsor TX Factor.
What have parrots got to do with amateur radio? Well, if I can do a quick demonstration, this is a DMR handie, and if I go, this is Golf 0, Foxtrot Golf X-Ray portable testing.
This is Golf 0, Foxtrot Golf X-Ray portable test.
Oh, hang on. The parrot had something stuck in its throat there. I'll try that again. You can use that in the outtakes.